Okay, hello everyone, my name is Raghoo. Today I'm going to be presenting a session called Unlocking Your Potential, Lessons from Elite Sport. I'm joining all the way from London, England, and I'm very excited to be returning for a second time. Before I kick off, I'd like to say a huge thank you to everybody that's going to watch this later on, and hopefully you'll engage with the presentation, you'll find it useful, and hopefully there's some really good takeaways that you can go and use in your life. So a little bit about me. I'm an athlete, speaker, therapist, and the founder of Enabled Not Disabled. So in my career as an athlete, I started sport in 2014, and very quickly I rose to prominence on the national stage and then the international stage, with my career highlights being the national record holder in the long jump and also winning 2 Cerebral Palsy World Championships. So the highest I got up to in the world was number 9, number 3 in Europe, and my goal was always to go to the Paralympics. Unfortunately, an injury put paid to that, and I had to retire last year, but I've since taken up table tennis with the aim of competing at the 2028 Paris Games, so keep an eye out for me. As a speaker, I've spoken to over 60,000 people and spoken on some prominent stages such as TEDx, as well as a number of internationally renowned hospitals, such as Great Ormond Street in London and then the Ottawa Children's Hospital in Canada, doing various trips around the world. And then aside from my life as an athlete and a speaker and stuff, I also work with people with cerebral palsy. So I've got quite an in-depth insight into different perspectives, living with cerebral palsy, working with other people with cerebral palsy. And I'm very engaged, very interested in how can we get the best out of ourselves. So Enabled Not Disabled, you'll see it on my top, you'll see it on everything I do. That's my organization. We're actually in the process of becoming an official charity. And if I had to sum up in one sentence, the reason why we exist is to change the way that the world thinks about disability and to make the world a more accessible place.
Good job.
So I've got some questions for you guys. When you're watching this presentation at home, please have a notepad, please have a pen, because there's going to be some things that I'd like you to do later on. So first of all, why? Why am I here? Well, as it says on the screen, I'm interested in your potential. So I want to help you to unlock your potential. Everybody's got it and everybody knows what it is or how to use it. But in this session today, we're going to discuss how can you be the very best version of yourselves. Physically, how can you get the best from your body? How can you live a better pain-free life? How can you get better rest? How can you eat better? How can you be the best version of yourself? Now, really importantly, we need to work out why are you here and what do you hope to get from this session? Now, obviously, if you're watching this, you've got an interest in cerebral palsy, whether you've got the condition or you work with people with the condition, or maybe you've got an interest in disability. Now have a think about it. Why are you listening to me talk today and taking your time to listen to this guy all the way from London? The other thing is, what do you hope to get from this session? I've got aims that I will try and put across in this session, and it'd be really interesting to hear, what do you hope to get from this session? And then the last point is, how can I support you moving forward? I'm really passionate about engaging with as many people as possible. My social medias are down below and the website, so please give us a follow, get in touch, and let me know how your journey is going. And I want to hear from you, especially if you watched the presentation, to find out if you found it useful, if there's anything that you would like me to talk to you more about, if you'd like to have a one-to-one or anything like that. So this session is called Unlocking Your Potential, Lessons from Elite Sport. And there's a lot of parallels that people with cerebral palsy have to elite athletes. You might not know it, you might not believe me, you might think this sounds a bit crazy, but there are a lot of parallels between the athlete and someone with cerebral palsy. So The parallels are routine, repetition, recovery, and reflection. Now we're going to discuss each of these in depth throughout the presentation, but the things that an athlete does to be successful, you can also do to be successful, whether that's to be more physically mobile, whether that's to get more out of your therapy session, whether that's just to be more independent. By building a routine, that's going to help you to achieve your goals. All right. Now, repetition is something that as an athlete, I did lots of. In sport, we say it takes 1,000 hours to learn something and 10,000 hours for it to become automatic. And it was the same thing growing up with cerebral palsy, learning to walk, learning how to put one foot in front of the other, and how to do all these different things. Repetition, repetition, repetition. When it comes to cerebral palsy, brain damage means that certain things are harder. Sometimes the signals not getting to the body. Sometimes things are much more difficult than they need to be. By repeating tasks over and over again, it's going to be a lot easier to learn something new. I don't believe anybody is incapable of learning anything. They might not just have been taught the right way that's suitable for them. Recovery is an interesting word. I'm going to delve into that. I've got a slide dedicated to that later on. It means different things to different people. But in the world of sport, recovery is such an important part of what we do. It's not just about working really hard in the gym or running really fast and performing really well. It's being able to perform day in, day out, being able to have a hard training session on Monday and then still go to the session on Tuesday and get through the week, get through the month. As an athlete, you want to recover as best as possible. And it's very similar if you've got a cerebral palsy. Your recovery between tasks, and the more that a task takes out of you, the less able or the less energy you will have to do something else. So recovering in between tasks and being able to manage your body, manage your energy levels, manage what you can and can't do in the day is really important. And then lastly, reflection, which is quite an interesting word, right? Especially to put into a presentation like this. Well, as an athlete, you actually do quite a lot of thinking. You think, did I give my all? Hopefully the answer is yes. Am I progressing? Again, hopefully the answer is yes. But sometimes the answer is no. And that's also useful because if you're not progressing or you didn't give your all, then we need to identify the reasons why and then adjust things, make the necessary corrections so that you can give your best and so that you can keep progressing. Sometimes the reflection might be, was that the right session for me? Or am I with the right coach? Have I got the right team around me? So reflection is also really useful and really important when we think about cerebral palsy. You've only got a limited amount of time in the day and you can't do everything. So reflecting on your use of time and how can you get the most out of the tasks you do is going to be key. So, what makes an athlete successful? Top tip. Whatever makes an athlete successful, it will also make you successful. Now, for those of you that are not fans of sport, the guy on the picture is Michael Phelps. He's the most decorated Olympian of all time. I think he's won a crazy amount of gold medals in the Olympics. At swimming, they're all on his shoulder, and a bunch of bronze and silvers. But he didn't become successful overnight. I didn't become successful overnight. In fact, I'm willing to bet that anybody that you know that is successful didn't become successful overnight. So there are some habits that I think very successful athletes have that you can also have. And if you implement them into the things that you're trying to achieve, you could also be successful. Now, my first point says goal-driven, process-orientated. I speak to a lot of people and not everybody understands this because everybody talks about setting goals and being goal-driven, blah, 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 blah. Goals are fantastic, but that's the end outcome. That's, the pinnacle. That's what you want to get to. But the process is the most important bit. How do you get there? For example, when I was looking at my journey to the World Championships, I had to do well at national championships. I had to do well at the state level competitions. And there were steps to go before I got to the World Championships. That was the top of the cherry on the cake. But I had to put the right things in place to be able to get there. Goal-driven, but process-orientated. If you're writing things down, write that down, because it's really important that, yes, your goals are what's driving you to work hard, but you're focusing on the process. And the process is showing up every day, doing the little gritty things that no one sees, working hard in silence. But those are all cliches, right? When we think about the process, say, for example, with cerebral palsy, say you're trying to learn how to do a new task. There's so much going on. Your brain has got to adjust to learning a new skill, fine motor skills, gross motor skills, brain's going crazy. So if you just focus on what you're trying to get out of that task, if you don't achieve that, then you'll get frustrated. Whereas if you're focused on the process, even if you don't fully achieve the task, but you get partway there, then you've actually had a success out of that. So goal-driven, but process-orientated. Athletes and very successful athletes are obviously very, very self-disciplined. But something that a lot of people might not think about is they also have extreme accountability. Now, there's a really good speaker on this called Raghoo. He's a retired Navy SEAL, and he talks about extreme accountability, owning things, whether it's good or bad, owning it. Now, as an athlete, we've got to think about the decisions we make on a day-to-day basis. Do I go out for dinner with my friends, or do I get an early night? Do I have beers, or do I, drink some water or some Gatorade or, some isotonic drinks or whatever? Do I have a protein shake, or do I do this? And there's always consequences to the decisions we make. And that's not to say you should always make the perfect decision, because that's impossible. But having that extreme accountability means that whatever decision you make, you will be comfortable with, because you can live with that. You won't be blaming somebody else because it didn't happen. You will know exactly why. So it's key to be self-disciplined, but it's also really important to have accountability. And with accountability, maybe you need to do an audit every so often. You need to look at your goals that we spoke about at the start and think, well, okay, have I hit them? If I haven't, what do I need to do to be able to hit them? What can I do to achieve that? Okay, self-talk. Self-talk is arguably one of the things that makes or breaks people. Now, athletes are really good examples of this, because you can see when they're doing it well and when they're doing it badly. Self-talk is the things that we say to ourselves, right? Not what other people say to us, but the things that we say to ourselves. If we're constantly telling ourselves we're rubbish, we're not good enough, we're not going to achieve things, we're not going to do this or that, we're always putting ourselves down. Now, as an athlete, if you put yourself down, you've already lost. So my mindset that I gained from my time in sport meant that I always try and say good things to myself. I always try and give myself positive self-talk. And that's not about saying I'm the best, I'm the greatest, or whatever. It's about saying the right things to myself when I need them to be said, right? So it's very easy when things are not going so well to start putting yourself down. It's so much more important to lift yourself up when things are not going so well. By the way, hey to Whitney, Shannon, and Nicole. Thanks for tuning into the session. And if you're watching this as a stream later on, then feel free to drop questions in the chat box. Feel free to drop questions to me via social media if you're not watching this live. Adversity. Now, one of my friends in the live stream, Nicole, said people CP know all about overcoming adversity. And that's absolutely true. There is so much adversity that comes with living life with a disability. And athletes are no different. Sometimes the adversity is that we're not going to get selected for a competition. Maybe we're not going to get sponsored. Maybe we get injured. There's all sorts of adversity that we've got to handle. I'm not particularly special. There's nothing, wonderful or amazing about me that means that I'm so much better than everybody else. But I'm very good at helping myself get over challenges. And the last word on this slide is bounce back ability. Now, I'm not sure if I made this up or if it was just something that I put together, but the way that I like to think about bounce back ability is that you'll always be able to come back from something. No matter how hard the challenge is, no matter how big the setback is, you just keep going. And bounce back ability is really been part of the key to my success, not just in sport, but in life, is whatever hurdle or setback there's been, I've always bounced back. And that doesn't mean that you've got to, bounce back today or tomorrow or next week, but it's about having the spirit inside you and the mindset that whatever comes along, you'll find a way. Okay, let's get into some of the heavier topics. So nutrition is one of the first topics I'd like to talk about in my life as an elite athlete. Just have a drink first. So this is a lovely meal cooked by myself. I've got grilled chicken breast, I've got some oven roasted wedges, and then I've got an assortment of greens, which are broccoli, kale, and cabbage, and I think some fennel. Don't worry too much about the picture, just a little bit of context. So, question for you guys to think about, for you ladies to think about, is what's more important, training hard or eating properly? Do you want to just drop your comments in the chat? Okay, Whitney said eating properly. I'd probably agree. So there's I'll put it up a bit later, but there's a famous saying that says you can't out-train a bad diet, right? So Shannon, you're not wrong. They are slightly equal in the sense that if you don't train hard, you can eat as well as you like, but you won't progress. But if you train really hard, but then eat really badly, you're not going to progress. So I would always say there's a little bit more emphasis on having a good, clean diet. Now we're going to get on to why this is more important for people with cerebral palsy shortly. So food equals fuel, all right? Food equals fuel. And what I really want anybody that's watching this, whether it's live or whether they're watching this back, is you don't need to diet, okay? Because a diet is restrictive and it's telling yourself you can't have something. If we view food as fuel and we eat the things that are going to fuel and nourish our body, then we will make sensible decisions towards putting in the right things. Okay, I've done every diet there is out there, whether it's the carnivore diet, vegan, vegetarian, pescatarian. I did fruitarian, which is just fruits, for a week when I was in Indonesia. I've tried a lot of different diets out. There's no one size fits all. The thing is to find what works best for you, what food is going to fuel you best. Fuel equals performance. So in my world of elite sport, but in your world as well, the food you eat is what's going to help you to perform. whether that performance is going out and running a marathon or running 100 meters, or being able to stand up today, or being able to open a jar of jam. Whatever performance looks like for you, the types of things that you put in your body are going to either allow you to perform or compromise your performance. Okay, so we want to be putting in things in our body that are going to maximize our performance. The day before a race, I always ate the same thing. Okay, I always ate the same thing because I knew that the thing that I was going to eat, I wasn't going to have any problems with. I wouldn't try anything new the day before I was going to race because I didn't want an upset stomach or anything like that. But also I knew I needed certain nutrients, so I'd eat certain foods. Food for recovery. Now, this is an interesting concept and it's something that as an athlete, I'm very interested in. But actually, before I was an athlete, living with cerebral palsy, we were thinking about this a long, long time ago. And that is the types of things that you put in your body are either going to hinder or enhance you. When I talk about recovery, it's about after working out hard, or in many people's cases with cerebral palsy, just living life with cerebral palsy. At the end of the day, you're knackered. I don't know about you, but I get tired quite quickly. And the types of foods that I eat will either help me to recover from the day or make recovery difficult. Fatigue. I can't speak for all of you, but in my experience, most people that I know with cerebral palsy, I'm not going to say struggle, but fatigue is a part of their life living with CP. The reasons behind that I can go into: muscle spasms, everything taking longer, things being more difficult, the body not being as efficient at movement. All of these are a contributing factor. Funny enough, when we talk about food, eating is actually a really difficult task for me because my jaw is affected. So it takes me around 2 hours to eat the average meal. For some people, eating is a very, very difficult task. So actually eating can be fatiguing. So I've got to think about, okay, what can I eat that's not going to take a lot of chewing and is going to take a lot of energy out of me? And lastly, what I'd say on this is food first is always my approach to anybody, whether I'm coaching them or just advising them. Food first, supplement after. There's a lot of companies that try and sell you this shake and that shake, this supplement and that supplement. Now, I just want to remind everybody who's watching this, it's called a supplement for a reason. You're supplementing something that you're not getting in your diet already. So maybe it might be good to address your diet and what you're eating and have a look at what is it that you could put in instead. Okay, because most supplements are from food anyway. They're just in powdered form or whatever. So if you can eat that food, then that's going to be much better. Now, let's talk about why nutrition is really important for people with cerebral palsy. So Whitney said she gets fatigued as well. So living with cerebral palsy, fatigue is just part of the deal. And if we're not eating things that are going to support us, then why are we eating them? So a lot of people talk about the protein content in this or low carb that. But the reality is, for most people with cerebral palsy, you're burning through more calories than the average person. And again, the reasons for that is largely muscle spasms and inefficiency of movement. So if you're burning through more calories, but you're not putting in those amounts, you're always going to be tired. I did a test recently where I just monitored how many calories I burnt in a day just doing nothing. And it was way beyond the recommended average intake for a man. Now, it's physically impossible for me to eat as many calories as I put out. And that's, you know, maintaining a little bit of muscle. But if I don't eat enough, I will struggle in the evening. I will struggle the next day. So are you guys saying I need to do a cooking show? I used to actually do a cooking show about 7 years ago, which I'm not ashamed to say was called The Naked Chef. And I used to cook topless, but those days are far behind me. Maybe we could do a cerebral palsy themed cooking show. Anyway, moving on from that, I've lost my train of thought now. Great question. Do you have any advice for someone that's not great at cooking? Have you tried different meal plans, like freshly where it's already prepared? So, if you're not great at cooking, is that because you struggle with the meal prep? If so, I'd say assistive devices are going to be your best friend. I've got quite good hand function, but I really struggle with chopping certain things. I struggle with whisking an egg and bits and pieces like that. So I've got a device that's multi-purpose. It can whisk, it can chop, it can blend, whatever. So I say that's going to be really helpful for meal prep. Also, you can buy a lot of things pre-cut up nowadays. So if you can buy it pre-cut up and then bang it in a pan with a sauce, then that'll be really good. I've never personally used a meal plan like Freshly, but that's just my personal preference. I tend to prefer to cook things, but there are some really good companies nowadays that are producing quite nutritious meals at a reasonable price. It's not my preference, as I said, but that could be a good idea. Pre-chopped things is really good, and also things that are easy to handle. So I often joke on my Instagram that pumpkin or butternut squash is not a CP-friendly vegetable because it's so hard to cut and it's a hassle to try and get into. So there are lots of other options that I've got that you could also try. The key thing is when we think about nutrition is making sure that we're getting the things that we need out of our diet. So again, everybody puts far too big an emphasis on protein. Now, I've never met anybody that's been protein deficient. No one's, I met people that might need to eat a bit more protein, but when you're burning through the amount of calories that we do with cerebral palsy, you need some carbohydrates, right? So don't be afraid to load up on good, healthy carbs, right? You've got devices like air fryers, you've got instant pots or slow cookers if you're old-fashioned. You've got the oven and bits and pieces. Something like a potato or sweet potato just chopped up and roasted is a really good source of healthy carbohydrates. You don't have to slather them in oil. Another thing that people often underestimate is the power of vegetables. There's so many minerals and vitamins in vegetables that you would get from eating them naturally. Now, I don't want to go too sciencey, but incorporating more vegetables into your diet is basically the easiest way to say this. And lots and lots of different color. Something that's orange has got beta carotene, something that's green has got folic acid and iron, etc., etc., etc. So have lots of different varieties of vegetables. Maybe try and try something new each month because you don't know what you're missing out on. There's a world of fantastic fruit and vegetables out there. And also don't overcook your veg, right? So a lot of people in my circles, they boil vegetables. I'm like, why? You're boiling the veg and then, all the minerals and the nutrients is in the water and then you throw the water away. So you're much better to steam your vegetables or even to lightly pan fry them. It keeps much more of the nutrients in them, right? Don't boil your vegetables. Don't be that person. As Shannon said, you cook out all the nutrients from the vegetables. Now, when it comes to fruits, berries are your best friend. If you've got a cerebral palsy, berries are your best friend because they're easily digestible, they're high in natural sugar, and they give you an energy hit that you need without bringing you on a spike and then back down. I don't know how much of us are coffee drinkers. I do, but I'm not addicted to it. But again, stuff like caffeine is a stimulant, stuff like energy drinks, you're just having a spike. You're much better to have sustained energy throughout the day. Obviously, if you need to have a hit of caffeine, you need to have a hit of caffeine, but don't underestimate the power of water. I put it on the slide, then I deleted it when I was building this, but just hydrate in big letters. Now, I tend to drink around 4 to 5 liters a day, which is a gallon if you're American or Canadian. I know most people don't do that, but please try and drink more water. I don't go anywhere without a water bottle. When we think about performance in sport, lactic acid builds up in your muscles. So when you get tired, lactic acid builds up in the muscles, and then that's when you feel tight, you feel sore. The more water you drink, you flush through that lactic acid a lot quicker. Okay, so water is really important. If you've got a problem getting your water in, then something like squash or a concentrated additive that you can add some flavor to the water so that it tastes a bit nicer, like an orange or a blackcurrant or a cherry or whatever. That might be another way of getting in some water. Something like a fizzy water or a sparkling water. Maybe you like the bubbles in that. That might be another solution. What else could you do to get more water in? You could use a water tracking app, which sometimes I get my personal training clients to use, and then you're meant to plug in how many glasses of water you've had per day, or you can set reminders on your phone, have a drink. A really easy way to get in more water is to have a glass of water every time you eat food. So you're going to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That's 3 glasses of water. Maybe you'll have 2 snacks throughout the day. That's 5 glasses of water. So if you have a glass at every mealtime, you're going to do amazing. Okay. Rest. I chose this picture because lions, or certainly male lions, all they do is sleep all day. Now, I appreciate we all can't do that because we have jobs, we have families, we have responsibilities, etc. But rest is so powerful. Now, I cannot undersell how important rest is. I remember growing up, when I got hurt or got injured, my grandparents used to say, "You'll feel better in the morning." And oftentimes you did, because when you sleep, your body goes into kind of a much more powered down state, and you're able to process and recover different things that happened. So yeah, please don't be that person that doesn't rest. I'm one of those people. I'm always working. I've always got a million things going on, and I need to take my own advice. So after this conference, I'm going to be looking at my schedule and working out how to build in more rest for myself. So how many of you are overworked? Most of us are probably overworked, whether we've got families or whether we live alone. The fast pace of our life nowadays means that we're overworked. So if you are overworked, how do you build in time to rest? Right? Now, you already spoke about fatigue. Most of you, if not all of you, will struggle with fatigue to a degree. So if you're struggling with fatigue, which means you're tired, and then you're not resting properly, it becomes a vicious cycle, right? It becomes a vicious cycle where you're not resting properly, and then you're getting more fatigued, and then because you're more fatigued, you're struggling to rest. So most of us struggle to rest. The reason why I struggle to rest is when I lie down, my tremors get worse, my spasms get worse, and sometimes I'm just not able to sleep. I'm also a really light sleeper, so any kind of noise or light or distractions will wake me up. So there's a lot of simple things that we can all do to try and help ourselves benefit more from the time we do have to rest. Something like lavender oil is really, really good. You just pop a few drops on your bed slip or on your pillow sheet, and it will help you to sleep better. Heat. So I've got like this thing that you can put in the microwave and it warms up. It's like a hot water bottle, but heating the problem areas or the areas that are more painful, the areas that are more prone to spasm, will go a long, long way to relaxing your body. So if you go to sleep in a stressed out state physically, then it's going to be difficult to get to rest. So what can we do about that? Well, we can try where possible to go to sleep in a more relaxed state. Now, what I mean by that, from a physical cerebral palsy perspective, is we can make sure that we stretch out before we go to bed. Because if we go to bed all tight up, that's a lot of tension. Whereas if we go to bed relaxed, that's going to be much better. We can make sure that we've got a hot water bottle or a hot teddy or something like that that we can put on the painful areas. We can try and make sure that our environment that we sleep in is conducive to sleep. So making sure that as limited distractions as possible in the room that we've got. Something like a heavy, heavy curtain that dulls out the light is also really useful. And then if you are a light sleeper like me, I wear an eye mask and I sometimes put earplugs in. And that means that I've been able to get better rest over the years. As an athlete, when we're on the road and we're traveling to different countries for different competitions, one of the things that the national team suggests is that you take your own pillow with you because you need a little bit of that familiarity from home. And it made such a difference. So what I would say is if you travel a lot for work, if you've got the space, take a pillow with you. It really does help. Quality over quantity. I know some people that can sleep for 17, 18 hours straight. That's just not me. My body wakes up at the same time pretty much every morning, regardless of what time I go to sleep. And because of the spasms, as some of you guys have said, it gets worse when you lay down, then my sleep is very limited. So always go for quality over quantity. You need a few good hours rather than lots of hours where you're not really resting properly. Okay, now I don't know what that looks like for you. It's different for everybody else. Some health professionals say 8, some say 7, whatever works for you. And lastly, there's no shame in saying no. In the busy lifestyles we live, we're trying to help someone else, we're engaging in family life, you know, we've got our son's football game. There's so many things going on. Sometimes you do just have to say no. I need to take some time off. I need to reset. The past few days have been crazy stressful. I've been moving home, unpacking, you know, from one house to another house and stuff like that. Next week, I'm not going to take on as much work because I need to take some time to rest and let my body settle. So, recovery. Has anybody got any ideas what I'm talking about when I say recovery? If you do, please feel free to put them in the chat. Muscles. Yep, muscles is a great place to start. So when we use a muscle, it gets tired. Sometimes it tears and then that's sore. But when we use our muscles, they get tired very quickly, which is what we experience in fatigue. Rehydrating is a really important part of recovery. Yeah, great suggestions. So as an athlete and just as someone living with cerebral palsy, stretching is so key. We've got incredibly tight muscles. If we don't stretch and lengthen that muscle, it will only get tighter, which will restrict our mobility the older we get. So whether you're young or old, stretching is super important. Okay, especially if you, like me, want to avoid surgeries in the future. If you can maintain the length of the muscle that you've got now and keep what you've currently got mobility-wise, that's going to go a long way. Foam rolling. Now, I know not everybody likes foam rolling. I know some people find it painful. Once you get past the pain barrier, it makes a world of difference. Okay, I've got a vibrating foam roller. So instead of me having to move backwards and forwards, it vibrates and I can just put it on any muscle I like. I've also got a massage gun where I just press the button and hold it on, my hamstrings or my chest or whatever, and that really helps. So if you're struggling with your mobility, then a foam roller could also really help, okay? And I use it to roll particularly tight muscles. I have kind of a little bit of a routine. So I do my calves, my hamstrings, my glutes, and then my quads, which is all of my lower body. And then once a week, I also try and use the massage gun to get into other areas. If you guys are interested in the vibrating foam rollers, drop me a message. I'll send you a link. I'm partnered with a company that wants to help you guys. Massage. Now, I give a lot of massage as a therapist, and it's really, really useful for people with cerebral palsy. Now, I realize massage is not cheap, and finding a good massage therapist is not always easy. If you can get a massage even once a month, that's going to be great. If you can get one once every 2 weeks, even better. Or if you can teach a partner or a friend to do it, then you can give a service in exchange. The number one thing that I do with all my clients with CP when we're working on their mobility is massage, because I need to get rid of that tightness before I can then teach them something new or increase their mobility. Now, as I said, massage isn't always accessible, but with my massage gun now, I can kind of do most of it myself. Obviously, it's not as good as a human hand, but it does make a difference where I'm always on the go. I can use my gun. So maybe you might want to invest in a massage gun. Spa. As an athlete, I spent a lot of time in jacuzzis, in hot baths, in a sauna, in a steam room, and occasionally an ice bath. Now, I'm not a huge fan of the cold. My skin is brown. I'm from the Caribbean and India, so cold is not our thing. But I've always found throughout my life that heat is incredibly restorative. It helps us so much from pain to recovery. So either a hot bath, or if you can get along to a spa or the jacuzzi, but I find the hot bath does so much. A sauna as well is really useful. So I'd encourage you guys to try out some of those things. Sleep, which we already spoke about. As athletes, we're always looking for the latest bit of equipment, the new thing that we can use that's going to speed up our recovery, that's going to help us recover faster, that we can perform better, etc., etc. Often we neglect the number one form of recovery, which is sleep. Okay, so if you're not sleeping well currently, or you're not sleeping enough, then let's do some things to address that. So I kind of gave away the answer to that, which one is more important, the answer is sleep. But I found throughout my life in sports and as someone just living life with CP, doing the combination of these is what's allowed me to get through the days and years and still be relatively able. Mental resilience. Okay, this is a really interesting one, and it's something that not all athletes have and not all people have, but if you've not got it, you can build it. Now, one of my favorite quotes, I can't remember who said it, is I never lose, I either win or I learn. Okay, so there's a lesson in everything that we experience, whether it's positive or negative. Sometimes the challenge is seeing that lesson or appreciating that lesson and looking past the initial loss. But being able to look at situations like that means that you'll be able to take something from every situation. Next one. So I coach wheelchair basketball. I love wheelchair basketball. And something that I tell all of my junior kids that I coach is next one. If you miss a shot, the most important thing to say to yourself is not my bad or that was a bad shot or whatever, is next one. Drilling it into yourself okay, I missed that one just now, but I'm going to sink the next one. And that same theory can be applied to lots of different tasks. If we struggle with something, we find something particularly difficult, if we tell ourselves next one or next time, rather than that was really tough, then you will slowly get there. Always remember, tomorrow's a new day. Okay, so however bad today was, tomorrow is a new day. You've got a new set of opportunities and things could be a lot better tomorrow. Okay, so when we talk about mental resilience, no one is mentally resilient overnight. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you guys that I'm the toughest guy in the world, because I'm not. I have tough days just like you guys do. All right. But remembering that another set of opportunities will come and staying positive is really important. And then the power of self-talk. So as an athlete, I never believed I would lose. Okay, I never went to a competition and thought, I'm going to lose today. I'm not going to run fast, or I'm not going to win my race. Because if I start to think like that, it will manifest and it will happen. Okay, so the things that you say to yourself are really important. Whether you're going to tell yourself that you're a champion or that you're going to become a champion, that doesn't matter. All right, you don't need to be the world's greatest, but you do need to be saying good things to yourself. Because just like negative influences can influence us, the things that we say about ourselves can also influence us. Okay, good days versus bad days. All right, so we all have good days and bad days. Whether it's a bad morning or tough day at work, whether we're struggling with our mental health, we all have good days and bad days. Now, this is a task that I would like you all to do at home in your own time, is write down what makes a day good and what makes a day bad. Okay, and then I want you guys to take some time for reflection and have a think about how can you replicate the good. Okay, what can you do to try and create more good days? Now, one of the things that I try and do when, especially when I've had a really rough day, whether that's physically my body's playing up or things are not going well with business, what I try and do to make tomorrow a better day is at the end of the day, I start to look at what I've got next rather than looking at what's happened today. So rather than going, well, you know, today's been really bad, my body's been really bad, what have I got going on tomorrow? That's exciting, right? And a really simple phrase that I learned a few years ago, which I'll put in the group chat, is this. I get to, I don't have to. All right. Now, there's some things that we have to do, but a lot of things are choices. We make those choices for a reason. All right. And if we approach things that we get to do those things, that it's exciting, it's an opportunity, rather than I have to do those things, it's a drag, I'm being forced to. Right? I get to, I don't have to. You made that choice. And as soon as you start thinking like that, everything becomes a lot easier. Now, how do we deal with these bad days? Well, sometimes we have to just accept that it's a bad day, and that's okay, because as humans, we can't be super positive all the time. We can't, you know, always be on our A game. Sometimes we're going to have bad days. So sometimes you just need to draw a line in the sand and say, that's been a bad day, move on. All right. Other times we need to talk to someone else who can maybe give us some advice or share some of their tips. Maybe we need to go and do something nice for ourselves. We think about acceptance and self-love, right? Accepting yourself for who you are. You've got cerebral palsy. There's nothing you can do to change that. So rather than doing what I used to do as a kid, which is be angry about it, if you accept this is what it is, then you're going to make the best of that situation. And self-love and self-care looks different for all of us, all right? but taking that time for yourself is really important. And lastly, recharging. At the end of the sports season, whether you guys watch the Olympics or the Paralympics, people have been working really hard. They'll then take a few weeks off, right? A few weeks away from everything, away from training, away from their diets, away from the daily grind. Now, I know we can't have a few weeks off, but we can have a few days off, or maybe you need to pencil in a few hours. But taking time to recharge is really important. Okay, we're nearing the end now. So I want to talk a little bit about building success. So the first thing is to stop the distractions. And what I mean by that is there's lots of things that are vying for our attention. Netflix, live sports is one of them for me, Disney Plus, music, friends, etc. Starve the distractions. Now, I don't mean that you shouldn't go out ever or shouldn't have fun, but if there's things that you really need to do for your body, such as stretching every night or making sure that you foam roll, then starving those things that are going to stop you from doing that is important. Curbing the negatives or the naysayers. There's so many people that tell me I would never achieve the things that I've achieved, but they doubted me when I told them about my ambitions or my goals. You just need to get rid of those people from your life, to be honest. Creating a routine. Now, a routine is so important, okay? A routine is so important because it's something that you can follow, it's something that you do every day and you know what you're doing. Set goals, but remember from the start, goal-driven, process-orientated. Goal-driven, process-orientated. Okay, so set your goals, but then work out what do you need to do to achieve those goals. Put it in the group chat for you guys. Okay. Always remember, one bad day doesn't have to be a bad week. If you fall off, if your plans, change, say for example, you decided that you're not going to eat any sugar for 2 months, and then you have a candy. So what? Don't have a candy tomorrow. Get back on it. All right. If you go away after this talk and you say, I'm going to stretch every day for the next year, and then 2 months in, you stop doing it for a week, 2 weeks, 2 months, you can always restart that. Don't let one little thing stop you from achieving your goals. And lastly, fall in love with the process. All right. Whatever it is you're trying to achieve, stop putting the emphasis on what you're trying to achieve. Put the emphasis on how do you achieve that. Okay, now go get to it. Go and do it. This was a little bit of a pun or a joke or a bit of amusement, but I guess none of you will get it. The image is of a takeaway because these are takeaway points that I want you guys to go and work on. It would have been much, much more funnier if this was in person. I promise you. Anyway, have a think. What do you want to achieve physically or mentally in the next 3 months? Okay, we only got 3 months till New Year's. What do you want to achieve physically or mentally in the next 3 months? Next, how will you do it? Set those goals. Aim for the sky. No goal is too big, no goal is too small. But then work out how are you going to do that? What do you need to do to get there? Who do you need to talk to? Who do you need to surround yourself with? What do you need to do to achieve those goals? And then lastly, make sure you keep me updated. I want to hear your guys' journeys. I want to hear how you're doing, what you've decided to do, the journeys you've embarked on. When you're struggling, maybe I can pick you up and offer you a bit of motivational advice. If you want a one-to-one, we can discuss how you can get the best out of your body from an individualized basis. But keep me up to date. I'd love to hear how you're doing, and it'd be really cool to be part of your journey as well. Okay, so now we're on to question time. Now, I know we're all on Zoom. I'd really love it if you've got a question, if you could unmute yourself, maybe even be brave and show your face and ask me the question live. If you're not feeling that confident, no problem, then please drop them in the question box and I'll answer all of them. We've got about 10 minutes for questions, which is perfect. And in the meantime, whilst we're doing questions, I've got a few for you. Number one, what's your number one takeaway from this talk? Yeah, please put it in the chat, message me on Instagram or tweet me. What was your favorite part? And then what would you like more of? I talk about a lot of topics. I'm very passionate about sharing the things I know. Knowledge is only useful if you share it. So what would you like me to talk more of? Would you like me to delve into really deep on one topic? So yeah, let me know. What was your number one takeaway? What was your favorite part? And what would you like more of? And now I'm going to open the floor to you guys for question time. So if you've got a question, unmute or put it in the chat. Okay, Nicole said she'd like me to talk more about mental health. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna try and do some more bits, talk about mental health in the future. It's definitely important. We've probably all had our own experience with it, so I can only share from my perspective as to how I manage things. But yeah, I'm definitely open to talking more about mental health because it is important. Shannon, I'm really glad to hear that you got a lot of self-motivation. That was part of one of my goals for this session, so that makes me happy. If you guys are on Instagram or Twitter, then feel free to, write a little thing, what you got from the session, so that other people can hopefully also take something away. So Robert, you said it's really important to take rest and breaks. That would be like a wicked tweet or a little Instagram story. Went to a session by Enable Not Disabled today, and one of the things I took away was the importance of breaks and rest, because hopefully the people in your network will see that and they might think, maybe I should take a rest or maybe I need to take some time for breaks. How do I stay motivated through it all? Yep, I definitely need to probably talk about that at some point in the future, for sure. Thanks, Shannon. Will anybody be brave and unmute themselves to ask a question? Okay, if you're not able to unmute yourself, then if you've got a question, then pop it in the group chat and I will answer it. If you don't want to ask a question in the group chat, then you can send the question via Instagram or Twitter and I'll answer them live and other people can see them as well. So however you would like to do it. Great question, Robert. What do I do to, just before I answer the question, thanks, Nicole. Thanks for joining in. See you later, Nicole. We'll catch up in the future. Robert's asked, what do I do to get myself motivated on those down days? Great question. So one of the things I really like is music. I'm a big vinyl or record person, so if I'm having a rough day, I like to take 10 minutes or 20 minutes to just play some records, listen to something that is going to calm me down. Sometimes I need to listen to something that's going to amp me up. But I find that music is a really, really good way of uplifting my spirit or helping me get in the mood for whatever I need to get in the mood for. So I find that music's really helpful. I also find that context is really useful. Okay, so if I am having a bad day, trying to work out what's causing that. Is it something someone said to me? Is it something someone's done? Is it something that's going on with my body? Once I work out the cause of the down day, then I can try and do something about it. Great question, Robert. Thanks for asking. Okay, guys, this session ends in a few minutes. So as I said before, if you've got a question, then pop it in the group chat. If not, then feel free to tweet me or do it via Instagram and we can answer those questions for you. Guys, are you writing them in the chat or is there somewhere else? Am I missing this? I can see there's 2 notifications. Okay, they're in the Q&A section. Okay. Tell us how you started your journey as a whole. Oh, Shannon, I would love to, but this session ends in a few minutes. But what I can do, if you follow me on Instagram or Twitter, then I can send you a video which has got a little bit more information about my story. And yeah, you can find out about my journey. My journey in very, very quickly is I was born with cerebral palsy due to medical negligence. So the team of doctors messed up. And I was told I'd never walk. Now, my family refused to believe that, so they did home physiotherapy. They taught me everything I knew. Fast forward many, many years later on, became an athlete and became world class at that. Halfway along the journey, someone said to me, would you mind working with my daughter? She's 5 years old, she's got cerebral palsy. So I flew all the way to Australia, spent a month there, and taught her how to do things that she'd never done before. And since then, I've been really passionate about working with other people to try and help them achieve their goals physically. So I'm a very big advocate for massage therapy, but also the importance of nutrition, foam rolling, recovery, rest, etc. Maybe we should do some work together. Jacob said, what's my next steps in life and where do I see myself in the future? So enabled, not disabled, we're turning that into a charity at the moment so that we can reach a much wider audience and help more people. So that's the next steps. Where do I see myself in the future? I don't know. What I'd like to say is hopefully I'll have created some sort of change. That change is something that really motivates me. I think there's a lot of things that could be better for people with disabilities, not just people with cerebral palsy. And part of my mission is to make the world more accessible, but also generate a better understanding of disability amongst people that are able-bodied. Robert has said, what do you recommend as far as nutrition? I love having protein shakes after my workout. Yeah, so there's nothing wrong with a protein shake, Robert. The average person doesn't need it because they're not working hard enough to acquire it, but there's nothing wrong with a protein shake. What I'd say with nutrition is it's all about balance. What I would recommend is most people say have kind of 5 fruits and veggies a day. I tend to have 8 to 10. But I try and have a really, really diverse portion of different fruits and vegetables with each meal because we need the minerals in those fruits and vegetables that you're not going to get from protein sources. The other thing is don't be afraid of carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are your friend, they're an energy source, and where we're going through more energy because of the spasms and the shakes and tremors, you need those carbohydrates. What else? Fruits. Don't be one of those people that doesn't eat fruit. Okay, I'm gonna give it maybe 1 or 2 more minutes. So if anybody else has got anything they'd like to say, Jacob, great to meet you. Nicole, thanks for tuning in. As always, Shannon and Wiley, Whitney, thank you as well. It's been a pleasure talking to you guys. As I said, make sure that you check out the social medias for upcoming talks, etc. I do quite a few different talks. So yeah, stay engaged, and I want to hear about your journeys as well. Jacob has said, am I down to surf? Am I down to surf? Yes, but I live in England and it's quite cold and it's also not great waves. But if you come to England or I come to where you are and you want to show me how to surf, then no problem. Nice to meet all of you guys as well. And ladies, thanks for joining in. Thanks for engaging with the Q&A. Thanks for engaging in the chat box. And hopefully we will continue these sessions, these conversations on social media. So for everybody that's watching this at home, who's watching the stream later on, who's not been able to make it live, then thank you for taking time to watch the live stream. Sorry, to watch the stream online. If you've got any questions, please feel free to reach out to me at enabled not disabled on Instagram and enabled_change at Twitter. And I'd love to hear how this presentation helped you, if there's anything that you took from it and your favorite part. And if you'd like to hear more from me in the future, then please stay in touch.